comes up, and it's a different atmosphere.
Then we'll be back on
Humidity has dropped across the Northeast,
and then we'll be off for week 1, back for week 2, and then we'll be off for like 6 or 7 weeks. Like 8 or 10.
The Weather Channel meteorologist Paul Good will be short-lived for some.
They're hot, it's humid, and it'll stay that way. We're talking the heat builds back into the southeast for much of this coming week.
10 dogs died while being transported from Chicago's O'Hare Airport to a canine training facility in Indiana after the vehicle got stuck in traffic and an air conditioning unit failed. Jenny Weber is executive director of the Humane Society of Hobart, Indiana.
I don't think any veterinarian would have signed off on the health certificate given the temperatures.
As the world heats up, some cities are experimenting with cooling technology like coating. PITV reporter Betty Cross is in Austin.
Leonardo's Drive in South Austin got sprayed with the light-colored seal that reflects sunlight last fall.
On an average, it will be anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees depending on the conditions.
UT professor Deb Yogi says it's enough of a difference to make a city more livable.
Russia says Ukraine launched an attack on Moscow.
A major Moscow airport was briefly closed following what Russian officials call a 3-drone attack in and around the Russian capital. They reported 1 injury. Russia also claims there was another drone attack involving some 25 of them in Crimea, which Russia took from Ukraine about a decade ago. Russia says its forces destroyed 16 Ukrainian drones.
CBS's Tom Foti reporting. Australian researchers have made a breakthrough in the early detection of prostate cancer. Scott Beeman has more.
Breakthroughs got the medical world excited.
There is a very accurate detection.
Albert wanted me to let you know that he will be off next week.
Since the discovery of biomarkers.
So you, me, maybe Michelle.
When a patient needs treatment.
The biomarkers perform with high sensitivity and high specificity.
Have so far been reliable in identifying the early stages of prostate cancer.
A new record was set at the Swimming World Championships.
Another victory for Katie Ledecky. She is now America's most decorated swimmer, at least by one measure. Ledecky won her 16th individual world title, surpassing Michael Phelps for the most individual gold medals at the World Championships. Ledecky's victory in the 800-meter free.
I don't even have. I don't have access to it except for the fact that the computer we use at work already has access to it, so I just use that account.
Need to hire quality candidates fast?
I myself don't have my own account.
The end-to-end hiring solution. Attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Attention taxpayers, ready for some bad news? With $80 billion in new funding from Congress, the IRS has launched their most aggressive hiring.
You can't believe I'm not hearing anything. I mean, I see people walking around and stuff, but I got nothing.
Taxes don't delay another minute because your paycheck, your bank account, even your home or business could already be at risk. Now, here's the good news. Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm, can get to work immediately, helping to protect you from the IRS. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their tax attorneys and licensed professionals are experts at resolving tax problems. Let them help determine if you qualify for the Reverse Card Initiative or other powerful IRS tax assistance programs. Control. Call Optima Tax Relief now for a free consultation.
Call 800-783-8055. That's 800-783-8055. 800-783-8055.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
WWL First News. I'm Ian Ozan on your official weather station, WWL.
More heat and sweltering humidity for your Sunday. Lots of sunshine, scorching hot temperatures. Our high temps this afternoon will get into the mid and upper 90s. Expect partly cloudy skies today with a few pop-up showers and storms this afternoon.
Your local weather expert, WWL TV meteorologist Alexa Trischler, has a full look at the forecast coming up in just a little bit. 2 juvenile suspects are in custody and a third is wanted after they allegedly shot at a New Orleans police officer. It all happened early Saturday morning near the corner of General Pershing and South Claiborne. According to an NOPD spokesperson, the shooting happened while the officer was investigating a call of shots fired. The suspects allegedly shot at the officer as he arrived on scene. No injuries were reported. Former Orleans Parish Criminal Court Judge Kiva Landrum is pulling her name out of the running for United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Louisiana. WWL-TV's Alyssa Curtis has more.
Our partners at NOLA.com report Landrum decided to pull out 2 years after she became the presumptive nominee under the Biden administration. Landrum said she decided to pull out because President Biden never formally nominated her and she wants to pursue other opportunities.
One Louisiana legislator is calling for more transparency and oversight into the third-party vendor Office of Motor Vehicles data breach. WWL's Brooke Thorington has the latest.
When it comes to the data breach, Leesville Representative Chuck Owen says there are more questions than answers.
That bothers me. That's kind of the reason behind all of it. We need more information so we can digest it and decide if there's any legislative actions that need to be taken now or in the future.
Owen would like to see legislative oversight into the matter, but only the Speaker of the House can call for one.
Just very hopeful to hear from the Speaker. And look, I know people are busy. I know it's a campaign season, but we are still paid to be legislators right now. We still need to do our duty.
In the Capitol Bureau, Brooke Thorington, WWL First News.
Time for WWL Sports. Here's WWL Sports Director Steve Geller.
WWL Sports is brought to you by People's Health. Seeing Jimmy Graham back at Saints training camp has been a little surreal. The tight end was traded to Seattle back in 2015. Then he'd go on to Green Bay, followed by Chicago. But for Graham, there's no place like NOLA.
It feels amazing to be back home. Just really driving up to this facility, brought back beyond beautiful moments for me. Not only here in this building, but here in the city. I became a man in this city, and it meant everything to me to play for the city.
Saints players have Sunday off from camp, but are back at it tomorrow, hopefully rested and ready for the first day in full pads. Steve Geller, WWL Sports.
Also in sports, Terrence Bud Crawford knocks out Errol Spence Jr. in the 9th round of their fight last night to become the undisputed world welterweight champion of boxing. And in MMA, Justin Gaethje knocks out Louisiana's Dustin Poirier in round 2 of their fight at UFC 291.
Now, your Garcia Roofing forecast on WWL.
Blazing heat, that's the story over the next week. It's only going to get worse as we head into August. So the new work week brings even hotter temperatures. As for your Saturday and Sunday, expect both days bringing us a mixture of sunshine and clouds with high temperatures reaching the mid to upper 90s. Most of us will see dry conditions, but there can be a couple pop-up showers and storms each afternoon. Starting Monday through next week, every day high temperatures can easily get to the upper 90s, near the triple digits. And then, of course, you factor in that humidity. Feels like temperatures over the next week can be around 110 degrees or higher each afternoon. Next week, we can see the chance for a few scattered showers and storms each afternoon, which will provide some relief, though. Most of that's going to occur late in the day, so we'll have to deal with just blistering heat over the next week. From your local weather expert and forecast center, I'm WWL TV meteorologist Alexa Trischler.
And I'm Ian Ozan, WWL First News.
From WWL, the news, talk, sports powerhouse of the Gulf South, it's All Things Legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870, or connect anytime, anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, good morning. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Give us a call, 260-1870, or text us at Oakland Heart Talk and Text line. Good morning, Albert.
Hey, Doug. Good morning. How are you?
Great. I am.
I see you're not at your office today. Where are you?
Well, I'm in Houston. I was searching out a hot spot because we were staying at a hotel that is a renovated hotel, like from an old historic building, and so they can't accommodate setting up for the show, basically. What we need, the equipment. So I had to go run up and down the street on Texas Avenue looking for a hotel to set up. So I'm at the Hyatt. So I think they think I am a customer, and so I'm acting like one.
Do they know you're not staying there?
Not yet, but they didn't say anything when I was eating their breakfast. So. So I think it's okay. That's what I normally do. But we went saw the Jack had his birthday this weekend, so he went to go see the Eastern Astros. So
cool.
Brother, his son. So we took in 2 Astro games, And I promise you, I wouldn't talk about baseball, but I'm going to break that promise.
How hot was it, first of all?
It's 100 degrees. It is.
Wow.
I think it's hotter than it is New Orleans. And it's supposed to get over 100, and it's been hovering around 100 all last couple of weeks, to understand. Now, Houston has the retractable roof. And even when we went to the game last night, Friday night, they had the game. They pulled back the retractable roof for a fireworks show after the game. And then they closed it back up. But yesterday's game was still hot, even though we were inside. It was, they had probably 35,000 people at the game. But it was very, very interesting. Went and saw Alex Bregman, had a home run last night from LSU. And he just loves LSU. In fact, at the game, they probably had at least 20 Alex Bregman LSU jerseys.
Oh, really?
So he's in.
Also, Brother Martin.
Houston is the largest concentration of LSU alumni in the nation, besides New Orleans and Baton Rouge.
That makes sense.
So because unfortunately, when you graduate from LSU in business, accounting, or even engineering, chances are you're not going to stay in Louisiana, that's another story. But it's unfortunate that we lose so many college graduates to the brain drain. And maybe it'll be different one day, but it's not now.
Well, that was the purpose of TOPS. TOPS was supposed to keep the brain drain from happening and keep it here. And then they kind of made it, watered it down so much with TOPS. A C plus and a 2.5. I mean, a 2.5 and I think a 22 or something get you some form of TOPS instead of really making it worthwhile and paying for room and board for these, A students. You want to keep them here and keep them at LSU. And I did that with my kids. I mean, send them to LSU and told them, I said, look, you get free tuition, to go to LSU if you want to go to grad school or somewhere else. That's great. Go get your free education at LSU. And then if you want to go somewhere else afterwards, fine. But there's nothing wrong with staying here. It's a shame because state colleges kind of have I don't want to say a negative connotation, but with the real I don't know even what to call them, but the people that think that Ivy League schools are the only schools you should go to. I have a friend, a friend of mine's daughter. She was valedictorian at one of the female schools here, and they were so disappointed that she was going to LSU. She grew up going to the games. She couldn't wait to go to LSU. And they wanted her to go to some Ivy League school so they could promote the fact that our daughter went to Ivy League school. She's a doctor now. She's got a great career. You don't need to spend $500,000 on your education.
Well, it's a very interesting phenomenon. This is my opinion, but if you send your kid to a college north of the Mason-Dixon line, you better hold your breath, because they teach different values further up north than you do down south. And there's an interesting phenomenon that's occurring with Ivy League schools is a lot of people up north are starting to send their kids to SEC schools because they think the SEC, that Alabama's, LSU's, Florida's, Auburn's, have values that reflect their families as opposed to some of the values that are taught on the left coast and the east coast and the northeast. And sometimes you come out, you have to sort of reorient them as to how the world really works. And they spend way too much time not teaching reading or writing and arithmetic, and they teach other things that aren't helpful in getting a job and having a career. So it's interesting. A lot of people in the north who have different values than maybe the prevailing values in the North of California. They look into the SEC to, reinforce that because they don't feel like they get it in other colleges. Plus, the other part is you come out of college with $300,000-$400,000 of debt. I mean, that's just
right.
And a lot of the curriculums they teach you for $300,000-$400,000 doesn't teach you a skill. And so,
hey, Doug.
My vacuum soon.
The lady behind you fixing the vacuum.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to slip her a 10 or something. And tell her,
Yeah, right.
It's not too bad, but
all right, I'm gonna try to do this.
No, you're good. I'm not hearing it too bad. It's all right. I can see her in the background though on the video.
Anyway, so I guess I'm not staying here, so I'm not a client here, so I don't have a lot of standing to say, hey.
That's right.
Stop.
Yeah, you can't go complain to the manager, right?
It doesn't sound too bad. Maybe it's like your adoring fans.
Yeah, there you go. You move your hands. I think you'll be all right.
Okay, I'm okay.
You're okay.
That's not that bad. Yeah.
Exactly.
Live radio and on location.
Speaking of which, I want to reach out and again, kudos to my son. He leaves Monday for the University of Miami. He's going to go start in law school in about a week and a half, and very proud of him. Worked hard, got a great scholarship over there, and it's going to be very affordable. And so he leaves Monday, and off to the University of Miami. So he's fully fluent in Spanish. So he sent his application to San Diego, Texas, Miami, and then Miami gave him a great scholarship. So he's going to take advantage of the fact that he's bilingual and that Miami area down there. So should be fun to see. He's a bright kid, worked hard. So I'm very proud of him.
Congratulations, Bo.
Bo.
Well deserved. Good luck. He'll do well.
Yep.
And tell me what's going. One thing I wanted to mention. I'm in Houston, and I grew up in liking Major League Baseball in the 70s, the Oakland A's, the Big Red Machine, then Red Sox, Mets, and Cardinals, that era. But what I've noticed is a little different. I'm going to get off baseball. I'm going to go to the Saints real quick. It's either a home run or a strikeout, it seems like. I think last night it was an 18-5 game. I think they had maybe 11 home runs, 10 home runs. It's just a different game. It's not. They don't have like the Wade Boggs, George Brett, Rod Carew type hitters anymore. It's a home run or
no small ball.
No small ball. And like the Astros, their lineup, 8 out of 9 of the players had double digits home runs, which was very interesting. And even the backup players had double digit home runs. But that's just a little difference that in the last 30 or 40 years. But I'll get off that. I promise I wouldn't talk baseball. But
that's okay.
Okay, it's the Saints training camp, and everything's unicorns and rainbows right now because all 32 teams. Well, maybe 30, with the exception of Tampa Bay. But what's any big news in training camp right now besides Jimmy Graham or anything? Any vibe?
No, that's the latest. I know some friends of mine actually went to a practice. They said they were just dripping wet. It was so unbelievably hot. I remember they used to go to Vero Beach, and then Peyton took them up to Virginia, to cool them off a little bit. But I don't know how much you can really get done in that kind of heat in terms of people giving just 100% effort. Because you're just so drained. I mean, it's physically exhausting and draining to play ball in that kind of heat. And you either need to go really early or you need to go really late in the evening. But they practiced, I don't know, 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's pretty hot.
Well, Jim Mora's first training camp was 1986, and they had it at Southeastern. Jim Mora was old school. And if you remember that year, the Saints got off to a very, very sluggish start. I think they were 2-5. And they ended up 7-9, 8-8. I think 7-9. But they won their last 3 or 4 games. Or 3.
Yeah.
They were strong. They were strong at the back end of the season. And they said they had lost their legs in training camp, and it took a little while for them to get it back. And so it's an interest. But on the other hand, you have to simulate game conditions. So what is the balance?
But you're playing in a freezing cold Superdome. You know,
you're right.
So, you know, so you're not simulating any game conditions by playing in the heat. You know, maybe in high school they do it, but I don't know. It just, you know, it just wears you out, and it's physically exhausting, and you can't get enough to drink and rehydrate yourself, and I don't know. It's just it's just a distracting factor. They might be better off going somewhere. Where do you go? I mean, right now there's a heat wave across the country in August.
They have the indoor facility to do.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know. It's a difficult thing to balance. You know, preserving them for the season, especially now. You got 17 games. At the same time, getting them ready for game conditions, and so that's
right.
I guess it's just a feel. You know, you look at your team, and you look at it and say, well, you need a day off, or I need to ease up on today. So it's just a hard. That's why they make the big bucks, and I think it's a very delicate balance. But I do remember. I remember going to Southeastern to watch them practice, and it was in the same kind of oppressive heat as we have right now. And then, you know, Hank Stram used to have.
You can't sit there as a fan, much less, you know, with a helmet and shoulder pads and running around in the heat. I can't imagine how ridiculously hot that is. But, I know guys that exercise, they go crack it on. You know, I'm riding my bike, I like to get my 30 miles in, you know, crack of dawn, and then come home. I'll be showered by 8.
If you want to take it, I can read
it. But even golf, you can't get an early tee time, you know, because everybody's going to crack of dawn so they can get it, you know, 18 holes in before it's so miserable.
Well, you know, Hank Stram used to have 3-a-days, believe it or not. He had 3-a-days at Myrtle Beach, so the times change. Okay, Cullen, we got a text on from about the Saints.
We do. 504-681. Good morning. Jimmy Graham will make a difference over the hill.
You know, he hasn't. He was off last year. He may have some gas in the tank for certain acute situations, but as an everyday player, no. Is my opinion. I think they could use him. Maybe some goal line situations. They could use him in selected third down situations. He's not going to – I don't think he'll be a every down player or anything close to that. But I think he could be inserted at acute times. Now, they seem to be pretty strong. I'll say strong. They got Foster Moreau, Juwan Dawson, Taysom plays tight end. They have Krull, who is from Florida, who was a rookie free agent from last year, who they're high on. So they seem to be pretty stout. So I don't know if they're going to keep four tight ends, including Taysom.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see what they say. But he didn't play last year, and you know Gronk took a year off, and he came back and won the Super Bowl. And that year off seemed to do him good, and I think, you know, we'll see.
It gives you body time to heal, you know, and you get your head in the right place, and you can target your workouts. You know, you're not consumed with the season and with the team and you know, anything that might be going on in your team. I'm a little skeptical about the pickup, because unless you're getting him for bargain prices just to try it out, you know, he hadn't done much in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, you just don't. He hadn't really. You know, Jimmy Graham hasn't really, you know, excelled at that position since he left the Saints, and so I don't know what they see in him, or whether or not, you know, they think that, you know, the new quarterback situation could help him find the ball in the end zone a little bit. I don't know.
I think Derek Carr is a quarterback who's more apt to go to his tight end. His tight ends his front, as opposed to some other quarterbacks. You know, his last team, I believe, was Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears hadn't had a quarterback since the 1940s. So, you know, a lot has to do with that. And Albert, you always say this, that Drew made receivers a lot better than they were, and a lot of receivers after they, Meacham, Copper, Lance Moore, a lot of these receivers who left the Saints after playing with Drew Brees were not the same players they were when they played with Drew Brees. And so I don't know if Derek Carr has that ability, but he does like the tight end, and he seems to use that more often than a lot of quarterbacks, and maybe that's one.
Jimmy Graham's what, 35?
36, I think.
36, yeah. You've also got to block as a tight end too. When you're at a running situation, they'll put a tight end in there to block, and does he still have that left? At 36 years old, trying to block a a defensive end or a linebacker coming on a blitz.
Well, it's interesting. That's when Foster Moreau will be playing. I will tell you an interesting story about Foster Moreau. 9 years ago, we moved Maddie into LSU. What they had was the football players helping move in the new freshman. And so I got Foster. He's wearing his Jesuit pants. And so I kept up with him, and I said, Foster, I saw the insult in him. I said, are you going to redshirt? Because he's a preferred walk-on. He didn't have a scholarship. He's a preferred walk-on at the time. And I said, you going to redshirt this year? And he got all indignant, saying, heck no, I'm playing this year. And I'm thinking to myself, you're going to redshirt, brother. I said,
yeah.
You're a little slow at foot and not terribly big for a tight end. And he was sort of miffed that if I asked him whether he's going to redshirt or not, and he was very, very adamant that he was not. And he really developed himself into a NFL player because he didn't come in heralded, didn't get a scholarship. Speed was average, height, size was average, but he was just a smart player who worked very hard and made it. So
he's a good kid. I know his family, and they're he just came from good stock, and he's a hard-working kid. He's gonna not give you problems in the locker room. He's a guy you want on your team, and awesome what the Saints did, even though considering his illness, signing him and taking the chance on it. And I really hope it pays off for both him and the Saints. It'd be a really great story in the NFL and for the Saints organization for him to blossom.
So I think he'll be your everyday tight end. He can play all three downs, all four downs, and he'll be much needed also. So, all right, well, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, Weekend Lawyers, All Things Legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
WWL, home of Scoot on the Air. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Who's the biggest Saints fan on the planet?
I eat pancakes.
I have a fleur-de-lis pool. WWL and Dudley DeBosier want you to win the Saints fan season pass. A pair of tickets to every regular home game, plus a signed jersey, helmet, and football.
I wear Saints jammies.
Go to WWL.com/contest and tell us why you're the ultimate Win the Saints fan courtesy of Dudley DeBosier, official injury lawyers of the
Jeff Nowak on Twitter was talking to Jimmy Graham the other day and said, Graham said with him that when he was with the Saints previously, he was about 285 pounds and he self-identified as a male. He said that's what happened to him workout. He slimmed down on the advice of Tony Gonzalez, and a year away, he started biking hundreds of miles a week.
Still time to win a generator like
he said, I'm in the best cardio shape of my life. I know that's not a problem at all, and now I'm looking forward to getting the pads on.
Hurricane Ida insurance claim unresolved, underpaid, denied, or stuck in neutral with a public adjuster? Did your Hurricane Ida insurance company go bankrupt?
He was.
So you must file a lawsuit before August 29, 2023, or your Hurricane Ida insurance.
Yeah, it's looking like. Hi, this is Doug.
Right, hybrid.
Reserve your Hurricane Ida claim.
But he does have some age on him. He is 36.
Call 504.
This one, I feel like, if he isn't over the hill, the question is, all right, what can you do on the field, and more importantly, what can you do in the locker room? What can you do in the meetings? What can you do in practice to help boost the next generation, I guess?
And bonus bets for every Team USA win. Just go to FanDuel.com.
But back to the program, we have two callers.
Oh,
If you want to take them. We got Jim from first up. If you want to take Jim from Al Davis, he has a question that I don't know. It feels like the answer is either super straightforward or super detailed. He's wanting to know if he's got a power of attorney issue with his wife, who's a power of attorney over his mother-in-law. So I guess her.
Okay.
And she changed her last name on some document, and he's wondering, since she got married and changed her name, if legal documents going by her last name matter anymore, if the daughter still has power of attorney.
7 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants
the other caller is Quinn from Marrero, who's got a question about driving without insurance.
Natural diamond.
Oh, Albert likes
Take
that
15 minutes to check out the diamond stud earrings at Oakland Heart Jewelers.
It's Gwen?
Our diamond studs have
Quinn.
call
Q-U-I-N-N.
Quinn.
It's
Quinn from Marrero.
Just listen to this review from Janet. The Oakland Heart team provided superb advice as they patiently guided me in selecting the perfect diamond stud earrings. Au revoir, mes amis. There's a great work of art in every box from Oakland Heart on Metairie Road.
This is an important notice to consumers facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt. You may not be required to pay it all back because there are special programs now in effect that will significantly reduce the amount you will owe if you qualify. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. These programs, which the credit card companies like to keep secret, exist to aid American consumers struggling with overwhelming credit card debt by offering tremendous savings and real debt relief. Accredited Debt Relief has established a special hotline for you to call and learn what savings you qualify for. They've helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt
back in about 20 seconds.
Rated with the Better Business Bureau. So don't wait. Get the relief you need during these hard economic times. For this free information, call the Accredited Debt Relief Hotline now. Call 800-663-1313. 800-663-1313. That's 800-663-1313.
On and on, she just keeps on. All things legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on WWL and Odyssey Station. Connect now on the Oakland Heart Jewelers talking text line 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We're on till 10 o'clock. We're on next week, and the following week we're off because we are Saints, Kansas City is playing at noon preseason, so for some reason they decided to preempt us. All right, let's go to I'm being facetious. Let's go to phone lines. Let's go to Jim. He's got a question regarding power of attorney. Hey, Jim, you on all things legal. What can we do for you, brother?
Yeah, the question regarding power of attorney. My mother-in-law executed one, named my wife as the granted her the power of attorney in case something were to happen. So that happened a few years back. She has gotten married, so her last name has changed from what the document of the power of attorney has on it. So the question is, does that need to be updated, or is it still valid?
It probably wouldn't hurt. I mean, you just have to do some extra documentation. You know, if you go to a bank or something and say, hey, look, now this is her name before. She's now, Joan Smith, Julie Smith Jones. And so, the power of attorney is still valid. And is it still valid now that she's married? Is that still her wishes? Is she confident? Was she willing to execute an updated power of attorney to go ahead and make it all clear? Those are those are questions that I would have.
Okay, and let me in regards to the first attorney that did this, it passed away as well. So could we just copy the language and change her last name and get it notarized without an attorney, or do you need an attorney to execute this?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, but I would get I would get an attorney to just take a look at it. It's not an expensive process.
It might be a couple $100 and you can get it
notarized, 2 witnesses, and have the document done properly. But yeah, I mean, if she's willing to go in and do it and sign everything, and you just need the mandatory and the agent, the person giving the power of attorney and her agent to come in and sign accepting it, and then you're good to go. It'd be a whole lot easier than having to just supply extra documentation and marriage certificates and all that nonsense down the road.
Plus, if it's an older POA, you may want to have it updated. They may have some change of circumstances that you want to specifically address. So for example, if she owns a house or she changed residences, a lot of times it's a good idea to insert the address of the residence in the power of attorney, just to provide verification if you want to sell it. Just to sometimes some title companies, if they don't have a specific designation, they get a little heartburn, and you have to convince them that the language in there is sufficient. So what I try to do in power of attorney is if there's anything specific that may be subject to the power of attorney, such as sale or encumbrance, I put it in there to stop, banks, financial institutions from questioning it. Not that they're questioning is it wrong, because there is a lot of fraud as far as financial exploitation of older people. And so, so the short version is you might want to get it updated. There may be some changes you want to implement. All right?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for calling. Let's go to phone lines. Let's go to Quinn. He's got a question regarding driving without insurance, which is in Albert's wheelhouse. He'll give a good explanation on that. What you got, Quinn?
Thank you. Thank you for taking my call. I was talking to somebody I know, not real well, but I know him, and he's very upset because his nephew, who spent 10 years or so in prison, he got out, he needed somebody to sign for a car. Nobody in the family would do it, so he did it. And he found out recently that his nephew has been driving without insurance for a year. He's very upset. He talked to his nephew. His nephew told him to leave him alone, basically. What legally should my friend do?
So he co-signed a loan for the car?
Apparently so. He said he signed for him because nobody else would do it. And I think the title is in his name and his nephew's name.
Oh, that's a problem. Yeah, if the title's in his name as well, then he's got an issue. I'd do whatever I could to try to get that car away from him. To sell it, to partition it, do whatever you got to do to get the car away. If it's in his name, there's no insurance on it. While if he's not driving it, there'll probably not be any liability. It's kind of weird because when you have a policy, there'll be liability attached to the policy, regardless of who's at fault. But they would have to show that he was somehow at fault, meaning your friend, not the nephew. But he would have to show. They would have to show his fault. So, there is maybe some contingent liability out there. But I would do what I could to tell him, look, if this car's not insured, then we're gonna sell it, and even if he has to file something with the court to partition it and have him force a sale, or have the kid buy him out of the vehicle, or whatever, and then he's on his own.
Should he just call a lawyer such as you and get some advice? Because he doesn't want to get on the wrong side of his nephew. He wants to help his nephew, but he's just upset because he feels like his nephew is obviously irresponsible.
Right. Well, life's a two-way street, and sometimes those kids need to know that, hey, look, being on the wrong side of it is not a big deal when you may be protecting this kid or protecting somebody else. And you're driving without insurance, so that's a problem. It's and again, if he gets in an accident, he doesn't collect the first $15,000 of his general damages, so he wouldn't have that benefit either. But I would have to get on him to get that car insured, or else transfer the title out of your name. And I mean, is the kid paying the finance charges on it? I don't know.
I don't know the details. I just say this is a disaster. But you just say he's very, he's not the type of person that would go assert himself with his nephew. He's just worried about it. Should he call?
Yeah, well, if he's not going to do anything, then yeah. I mean, he can call a lawyer, but if he's not going to do anything, then it's wasting his time and the lawyer's time. I mean, if he's just going to sit back and let it happen.
But if a lawyer does, he might listen.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he can give us a call at 837-1304, 504, and 837-1304. We'll be happy to chat with him. But it's not a good idea to be, on a ride in that liability.
I understand. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. All things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
WWL, home of Louisiana's great outdoors with Don Dubuque. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
What matters most to me? It's pretty simple. It's you. Hey, I'm Tommy Tucker. Every morning, my goal is to get you answers. Is your family safe? Do you need to worry about the weather? Did the Saints make a move? That's why I love my job. It's all about you and me and home and us. Will insurance be affordable? Is LSU winning? I care about you and our community. So wake up.
Yeah, you good?
Mornings, and let's get a good day started together on WWL.
Yeah, you're fine over there. Like, the sound isn't bad. The vacuum.
Well, join us at Odyssey.
The lady I think is mad at
together
me
millions of things for our
I went
planet.
to the bathroom,
Summer means hotter days.
and
Avoid
she
using
said,
heat-generating
and, I'm trying to
appliances like stoves and
get
dishwashers
on time
during the day.
I mean,
Use
I'm on
them
time
during
constraint
off-peak
getting these
hours in
things
the
set up.
evening to minimize
And so
the
I said,
effects of
can I
heat
just go to the
and save on
bathroom?
electric
Go out
costs.
to the room,
Late
go out
evening and
the room
early
here.
morning is also the best time to
And
water plants and
she's
lawns.
like, I said, I'm just going
Water is
to go.
less prone to evaporation.
She's
When we
so
each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, a million
You're
things
doing like
on
a
our planet.
bank
One thing.
section.
All do our one thing. Together
I
millions.
mean, it makes for a good, in a few years you're gonna be like, yeah, remember that show, and then we have to
Opt for activities like kayaking or paddleboarding instead.
told her,
Swimming, snorkeling, and diving are great activities
I'm just
too,
doing a
and have
little
virtually no
just doing a
impact on the
little
environment. And
show.
use sunscreen labeled
Going back
Reef
to
Safe
New Orleans,
to help
I said,
protect marine wildlife. When we each share our one thing, it
Because she
becomes
was
100
looking at
things,
me like
1,000 things, a million things for our planet. What's your
bad
one
intentions.
thing?
So
It's time for back to school
her response
again.
to that was to
Hi, this is
vacuum
Wes
while I
McClooney.
was in the
Maybe
middle
she
of
can feel what you're not supposed to.
We have all the new balance shoes at their
I
best.
do have a
this
Hilton
fall.
Honors
We have the largest
account.
selection of new balance shoes.
And if they're
in
going
New
to come up
Orleans,
to me, I was going to tell
and
them
our
I'll just
fit
buy a room for
specialists
them.
are trained in measuring growing feet.
We're 40 minutes in. Let's see how far we can go.
Every time. Get ready for back to school now.
I'm assuming you're back back home next week.
Across
Yeah,
the
we're leaving
Lakeside
today.
Mall on
We'll
the
be back
corner
home.
of Veteran.
We got.
Well, I can chime in, but you'll probably get Michelle back on if she wants to join us.
Lazy Tall Roulette. We come together in
We're
hard
yeah.
times too.
So
We
we're
band together. When the storms hit, my neighbors keep me going.
Yeah,
And
so
as
we
the
got
waters rise, my flood insurance.
we got
helps
another
me stay.
grandbaby coming in
Louisiana,
August. So
let's look out and let's look forward.
Protect your property.
Oh, it's okay.
Smart.gov.
Are you a
I'm,
business
Set up at the hospital?
I'm not a. I'm a waiting room kind of dad and
no
granddad.
sense.
I don't need
Literally.
to. I don't
Sound
need to
like
be
you
in
do
there.
well. Like grow
Yeah, I guess that's.
and let Accounting Services Unlimited
Like-
handle your bookkeeping. Hi, this is Thomas Fontes. Accounting Services Unlimited is insanely affordable and will come to you. Call for a free quote. Accounting Services Unlimited, 504-717-6253. That's 717-6253. Or visit us at asu-llc.com.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing. Together millions of things for our planet. Summer means hotter days. Avoid using heat-generating appliances like stoves and dishwashers during the day. Use them during off-peak hours in the evening to minimize the effects of heat
and save on electric costs. Late evening and early morning is also the best time to water plants and lawns, as water is less prone to evaporation. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing? Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing. Together, millions of things for our planet. Water sports are a great summer activity and can be eco-friendly too. Avoid activities like jet skiing or water skiing. Opt for activities like kayaking or paddleboarding instead. Swimming, snorkeling, and diving are great activities too, and have virtually no impact on the environment. And use sunscreen labeled Reef Safe to help protect marine wildlife. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing?
All things legal on WWL. Consult with Nico and Sunseri now on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870. And don't forget to rewind on the Odyssey app.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Albert, we were just talking about uninsured motorists, and I know every 3 or 4 months we ask you to give a good explanation as to why you need uninsured motorist coverage, how does it work, and why do you need it if you drive in Orleans Parish?
Well, exactly. You hear the commercials, only pay for what you need. They want to try to give you the best rate and cut your cost and your premium. And I get all that, but don't skimp on uninsured motorist coverage. Uninsured motorist coverage is based upon the liability of the other driver. Therefore, if you make a claim under your UM or uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, it will not affect your premium. It's in the statute. They cannot raise your premium for such a claim. The problem is in Orleans Parish particularly, but even in Jefferson Parish and other parishes around the state, very many people do not have any coverage at all, and the minimum coverage is $15,000 in liability. So, you get in a car accident, you go to the doctor a little bit, and, or you had some treatment, rehab, whatever, and your $15,000 is eaten up like that. And so if you don't have uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, you have no other claim for your injuries, whether it's for pain and suffering or for medical bills or anything like that. So you're doing yourself an injustice. That protects you, that the uninsured motorist coverage protects you against an underinsured or uninsured motorist. And you go after your own insurance company. And again, once you do, as long as the fault rests with the third party, they cannot raise your rate if they pay an uninsured motorist claim if your own insurance company pays. So it's not an expensive component of the policy in terms of the value for what you're getting. So I would absolutely look into that. If you don't have it, you can select lower limits. You can select economic only damages, which covers your medical bills and any lost wages you might have. It won't cover any pain and suffering. So it's just, I would get the full boat, and I certainly have it on all of our vehicles, the full uninsured motorist coverage, because it's well worth it.
Yeah.
It's something very interesting, really talking about automobile coverage. So a buddy of mine buys a new car. It's about a year old. And a week later, he's having all kinds of electrical issues. And so he brings it to the dealership, and they say, he brings it to the guy he bought it from. He said, no, that's a dealership issue. It's still under warranty. So he brings the vehicle to the company, and he says, look, it's not under warranty. He said, you don't have an issue with your electrical. He said, you've got an issue with rats. And he's like, what? He said, yeah. He said, with all these new guidelines that the federal government's placing on these motor vehicle companies, he said that the wiring harness, instead of it being covered with plastic and petroleum product, it's a soy-based product, and the rats love it. So they're climbing into people's vehicles and chewing up the wiring harness because it's made with soy. And so he said, fortunately, it was covered under his comprehensive provision of his policy because it was damaged from a rat chewing up his vehicle. So that he was, he had to pay his deductible. I think it was $100 or something. But very interesting I've never heard that before. And the guy said, yeah, it's happening more and more often that, vermin are being attracted to this oil-based covering over these wires. And so it's just another offshoot of stupidity, but anyway.
Well, there's, I think there's always unintended consequences when you have change.
Right.
And I think when you talk about these electric vehicles, you're going to start seeing a lot of unintended that weren't contemplated. And as long as you go into it with your eyes wide open and buy it, that's fine. But I think a lot of people are finding out after they buy it that this is an issue. So, mostly the batteries themselves, they cost a fortune to replace. So, yes. Also, as far as uninsured, real quick, let's just talk a little bit about MedPay. What is that in your policy, and how does that work?
Yeah, so medical payment division, they're usually either 1,000, 5,000, sometimes up to 10,000. But it is a no-fault automatic payment. If anybody, you or anyone else in your vehicle, can make a claim under your medical payments coverage, and they will pay the medical cost directly. Now it's probably a good idea to do that. Because, depending on what service you have, if you have to go to the emergency room or if you have to have some diagnostic studies, usually there are large deductibles or high copays or something on a lot of those policies, for those procedures. So, oftentimes you'd be better off just making a claim with your MedPay carrier, submitting the bills directly to them, and then they can pay 100% of the claim, and you won't have to come out of pocket. And that's an extra expense. It's kind of a luxury if you've got a good healthcare policy and you can afford the deductibles and you can afford the copays, then you really don't need to be paying premium for MedPay. It's if you can afford it and you want to go ahead and pay the extra premium and have 100% of it covered, that's what we do.
And real quick, we got about 2 minutes before we go to a hard break. If you are driving without uninsured motorist coverage and you get in a wreck, but it's not your fault, can you sue for pain and suffering and personal injuries?
Well, you can sue for whatever you want, but you won't be able to collect it from your own carrier. You'd have to sue the third party that was at fault. And then if they don't have any coverage, or if they only have 15,000 minimum limit, then you're out of luck. You're limited as to what you can cover. Most lawyers will take a 1/3 contingency fee if you get a lawyer involved. So if you're looking at $15,000, 10 of it's going to go to the lawyer, and then you're going to have medical bills and costs that come out. And so that's going to come out of the claim. So you're really going to end up with next to nothing.
Plus you don't
it's
get
really a good idea to.
Plus you won't get your $15,000 of pain and suffering if you got uninsured motorists. You're driving and you get in a car wreck. It's a third party's fault. The first 15,000 is is excluded. In other words, it's not.
No, that's different. That's no pay, no play. That's if you don't have coverage. Yeah. So if I'm driving along and I have no liability coverage, not UM, but no liability coverage, then I can't collect the first $15,000 of my general damages because I don't have. It's called no pay, no play. If you're not buying into the insurance scheme, then you're not going to be able to collect that first 15 grand. And so when you submit a claim, you want to submit the fact that you are covered. Send them your declarations page to show that you are covered and that they can't, cut you out of that first $15,000.
And when I asked the question, I meant to ask if you didn't have insurance at all, any liability.
Right, liability. You said UM by mistake. Yeah, but it's general liability coverage. If you don't have coverage, like the guy called earlier, didn't have any coverage on the vehicle. So if he got in an accident and it was someone else's fault, he wouldn't be able to claim the first $15,000.
All right. Well, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out.
Show with Dan Gill. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Keep it locked on WWL for breaking sports news, powered by BetQL. Smarter bets start with BetQL. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today.
WWL is proudly sponsored by Dudley DeBosier, official injury lawyers of the New Orleans Saints. Call 504-444-4444. Non-attorney spokesman Chad Dudley, New Orleans.
Summers in the Gulf South. Why spend it painting year after year? Do what
You okay?
your neighbor Charmaine did. She called Rhino Shield.
So my house
I'm just trying to adjust some of the sound.
It's actually got.
All right. Well,
If you saw how, if you saw.
Rhino Shield's
What do we have on?
About a minute 50.
Yeah. I just wanted to take that segment so we go in and out rather than break it up.
No,
A minute 15?
To worry about my neighbors or the HOA.
minute 50, give or take.
Minute 50, okay.
I've got a beautiful product to show for it.
better than paint. A 25-year transferable warranty. Sounds like Rhino Shield's perfect for your home.
For me, Rhino Shield ended up being an absolute no-brainer. I just feel like my home is better protected. It's protecting my long-term investment over time. I couldn't be more pleased.
Call now for your free estimate, 504-407-2222 or RhinoShieldMidSouth.com.
Go Rhino!
Go
Rhino Shield! It's the first day of the first grade. It's a late that Sunday afternoon you wish would never end. The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
There's no hiding from Bluebell Monster Cookie Dough Ice Cream. Creamy vanilla ice cream, peanut butter, monster cooked brown sugar, candy-coated chocolate, and dark chocolate flavored chunks. It tastes so good, you'll need a bigger bowl.
The good old days are being made right now. The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell Ice Cream at Travis Supermarket in Bogalusa and Balestra Supermarket in Belle Chase.
Real love, Amour Flay, calls for the gift of real diamonds. At Oakwyn Heart, you can make her breathless for less. There's a great work of art in every box from Oakwyn Heart on Metairie Road.
Protect your assets from financial uncertainty. Southern Coins and Precious Metals. SouthernCoins.com.
Let's face it, talking about life insurance is never easy. But after we watched a close friend lose her husband with no insurance, we decided that wasn't going to happen to our family.
Yeah, but shopping for life insurance can be almost as difficult as talking about it.
What do we think of Todd Rundgren?
Those life insurance. They're a new
All right, I got something showing up.
built for people on a busy
I like
schedule
his,
who don't
he's
have
great.
time for unnecessary doctor's visits, fine print, or hidden
His,
fees. Who want to keep it simple.
I couldn't believe how easy it was. We answered a few basic questions, and within minutes, we had an estimate of what it would cost and what sort of policy made sense for us.
I never imagined a life insurance could be so affordable.
And accessible.
The peace of mind knowing that our future is secure, it just removes a lot of the fear around getting older. And
Yeah, the unexpected.
I'm glad we talked about it.
I'm glad we went with ethoslife.com.
Go to getethos.com now for your free estimate. That's getethos.com. Getethos.com.
The second ball.
So next week, when we have our show next week, we've got a sports talk, like a special sports talk, like training camp edition. It's going to be later that day from like 3 to 6.
Okay.
Closer to the playoffs. The
Gotcha.
free Odyssey
Gotcha.
app lets you listen to live.
It'll be with Jeff Nowak and Mike Paul.
What you're up to, you'll never have
Today
to
they
miss
clear,
another
huh?
game.
Nothing.
Download the free Odyssey app.
It's all
I think
CBS
it's like
Sports.
yeah. Today no camp. We're back in 3. I'm gonna play some music and go rejoin to Sacred whenever.
Okay.
Odyssey.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyer. Todd Rundgren. That's a good song. 1972, maybe. So, got about a minute and a half. So, moral of the story, Albert, is you have to get auto insurance, but it's highly, highly recommended to get uninsured motorist coverage.
The other thing is, depending on the age of your vehicle, you probably want to get comprehensive coverage too, because that covers theft and vandalism. So if there's so many cars being stolen these days, and windows smashed, and and it's typically just about $100 deductible because it's for situations like that. And again, that would be full coverage, right? That's something you want to pick up, especially with the vehicle being stolen. So you'd be out of luck if somebody stole your vehicle and you didn't have comprehensive coverage. So that's another policy provision you want to look at and talk to your agent about. Anyway, yeah, it's important to have all that.
It's usually probably good to allocate money for that because
20 seconds.
Especially where we live. All right, we're going to national news, local news. We'll be back for hour number 2 and all things legal. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Good first hour.
All right, good. All right, we'll eat some breakfast.
I'll watch over your stuff from here.
All right, watch it.
The News Talk Sports
Don't go too far.
WWL New Orleans, WWL FM and HD1 Kenner New Orleans. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
I'm Wendy Gillette in New York. Severe weather hit the Washington, D.C. area last night, bringing down trees and power lines. Richard Blythe witnessed the high winds.
It happened so fast, I was kind of in shock. And just the speed of the winds. I mean, I've never seen winds that fast before.
In some areas of the country, including the Northeast, high heat is finally waning. A new CBS News poll shows the majority of Americans want climate change addressed now. In Appalachia, the single biggest renewable energy project in the region is underway. CBS News correspondent Jim Krasula has the details.
Plans have been introduced for a huge solar panel energy center that will cover land in 3 economically depressed counties in southern Appalachia. Rocky Atkins is with the Kentucky Governor's Office.
It's important as we move into the future, as we attract new types of jobs.
In the CBS poll, 75% of Democrats and 28% of Republicans. The recent high temperatures have made them more concerned about climate change. Former President Donald Trump attacked President Biden during a speech last night in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Not only is crooked Joe Biden the most incompetent president in American history, he can't even put 2 sentences together.
Trump also criticized fellow GOP presidential candidate Ron DeSantis. Vice President Kamala Harris criticized some GOP stances.
I can't get my text.
The annual
Do we have any good text?
NAACP conference in Boston.
You look at
Colin?
what's happening.
Yeah, we got, let's see. Someone asked, what about getting brake tags?
Ridiculous thing that is happening.
And someone else asked a question, which to me seems kind of obvious. It says, Albert, I got a red light camera ticket in Orleans on Bienville. On my trailer, do I need to pay it? Collection agency
Materials deemed harmful to minors. KHTV's Sarah Horbakovitz from Little Rock.
The temporary
Coach Edwa did send a text message saying, Doug, please check email. Thanks.
Yeah, I checked it.
Materials.
Oh, can you write her back and thank her?
By different librarians across the state.
Just
a police
tell
officer
her I
in Colorado
can't.
who
I'm
put
not,
a
I don't
suspect in
access
a car
text,
that
but-
was hit by a train was
Yeah, I
found
saw
guilty
that.
of a couple charges. KCNC TV's Michael Spencer.
Officer Jordan Steinke was found guilty of reckless endangerment and assault, but was acquitted of a 3rd charge of criminal attempt to commit manslaughter. Urini Rios Gonzalez suffered serious injuries following that collision. Officer Steinke worked for the Fort Lupton Police Department at the time.
The trial started on Monday. This is CBS News.
Find great hires fast with Indeed. Their end-to-end hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in the same place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Ron had a tax problem he just couldn't handle on his own.
I owed the IRS taxes for over 5 years, but I didn't have any money to pay the taxes.
Those years cost him dearly.
Most of it was fees and interest. It was horrible.
Ron finally called in the pros.
I called Optima Tax Relief, and boy, am I happy I did.
The leading tax resolution firm, Optima, is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've resolved over $1 billion for their clients. Ron was overjoyed.
They settled my account with IRS. I was ecstatic. They are a lifesaver. They are. I am so happy.
Take Ron's advice and call Optima now for a free consultation.
Yeah, don't do like I did and wait. Call Optima Tax Relief. Do it now. You'll be ecstatic like me.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
WWL First News. I'm Ian Ozan on your official weather station, WWL.
Plenty of heat and plenty of sunshine for your Sunday. Our high temperatures will rise into the mid and upper 90s. Feels like temperatures can get close to 110 degrees. Make sure you stay cool and hydrated. Expect a few scattered showers and storms this afternoon.
Your local weather expert, WWL TV meteorologist Alexa Trischler, has a full look at the forecast coming up in just a moment. 2 juvenile suspects are in custody, and a third is wanted after they allegedly shot at a New Orleans police officer. It all happened early Saturday morning near the corner of General Pershing and South Claiborne. According to an NOPD spokesperson, the shooting happened while the officer was investigating.
If we don't get any callers by the time we get back on the air, we can talk a little bit about. You kept mentioning the fact that LSU football is like getting close. I don't know how you.
I could tell you it is.
Or it will be.
This has more.
You have until Tuesday
34
to submit
days.
a financial help survey. You'll need to answer some questions so they restore
34 days.
I think the schedule came out for some of those games already, like what time they'll be playing and everything.
This Tuesday, August.
We open the first 3 games we have the schedule for of what time they will be. The first game, poetically enough, is actually on a Sunday.
LA.gov.
Yes, it's September 2nd.
The 3rd, September
3rd. September. So we got 3.
Sunday,
so we got 34 days, 35 days.
30 p.m. So
year of credit monitoring to those impacted. But Leesville Representative Chuck Owen
35
believes the
days.
incident warrants legislative oversight. The decision to appoint an oversight committee to investigate that matter falls upon House Speaker Clay Scheck-Snyder. But Representative Owen believes the breach could fall under the scope of existing committees, either Homeland Security or Transportation. He also says the House Speaker could appoint a special committee to look into the breach.
It was a prolific theft, and I think the people through the legislature need to be.
Okay, well, we don't have to worry about the same. There's a week of downtime, I believe, in between. I believe there's like a week of downtime in between the 3rd preseason game and the first game of the season. But regardless, it doesn't seem like there's any NFL games on September the 3rd. So that'll be the only game that we care about.
Jimmy Graham's back in black and gold after 3 years with the Seahawks, 2 years in Green Bay, and then 2 years in Chicago. The 36-year-old tight end says he's come home to help make the Saints a Super Bowl contender again.
Awesome to really sit down and talk with Carr, just realize what type of man he is, what type of person he is, and then to see how much talent's on this team, to see how many players that this team has and the team that's been built here is unbelievable.
Well, the team has a day off today and get back on the practice field Monday in full pads. Steve Geller, WWL Sports.
Now, your Garcia Roofing forecast on WWL.
Get ready for some heat over the next week. Your Saturday brings a mix of sunshine and clouds with high temperatures reaching the mid-90s. We have a heat advisory today. Feels like temperatures can get close to 110 degrees this afternoon. There might be a couple pop-up showers and storms during the afternoon, though most of us will trend dry. Sunday, it gets hotter. High temps can get into the upper 90s. Most of us seeing dry conditions with only a few showers and storms possible in the afternoon. Monday through next week, even hotter, if you can believe that.
Our breaks for this hour are a little shorter than
Are
the
they?
breaks.
See a few scattered showers and storms
I think our 40 breaks
next week, which is good news. Still going to be hit or miss, and feels like temperatures every afternoon can go above 110 degrees. Make sure you stay cool and hydrated as we deal with this scorching hot stretch of days. From your local.
Oh yeah, the weather we're about to get is like insane.
Alexa Trischler.
Oh really?
Oh God, yeah.
First News.
From WWL.
I want to say that the lowest high over the next couple of days is still like 98 or something like that. It's going to be like we're going to hit triple digits like most days this week.
Quinhard Jewelers talk and text line 504-260-1870 or connect anytime, anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now,
all right, we're coming back to
Financial Federal Credit Union Studios in the heart of New Orleans. Here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal for hour number 2. Give us a call at 260-1870 or text us at the Oakland Heart Talk and Text line. And, okay, LSU is 35 days away. They start 5 weeks from today against Florida State. And so expectations are high this year, as opposed to last year. Expectations were 6-6, 7-5, and they went 9-4 and made the SEC championship. So it's all about expectations. We were thrilled last year because we were expecting, 6-6, 7-5, maybe 8-4, and we were playing for the SEC championship. Now this year expectations are 11-1. So anything less than that is probably going to be like, what happened? So
right.
it's all about expectations.
Yeah. So that that kind of made the season.
Yes. So and then Jaden Daniels is, when you talk about the Heisman Trophy, he is in the conversation. So we'll see. So 35 days. All right. I got an email. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about this before we talk about Hurricane Ida and some of the deadlines that are coming up. The mayor is like a wealth of news for WWL. I mean, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And so she's she's requesting her employees sign non-disclosure agreements. And it's interesting that there's no disciplinary action, she's saying, for not signing them, but she's asking her employees to sign them. And that's sort of a political issue, because maybe in light of, with some of the things that have come out, that she's trying to, I guess, keep her keep the city employees in check and trying to intimidate them to a certain extent so that they won't maybe discuss political issues or what have you. But non-disclosure agreements in business, how do they work, Albert? And, to what extent do they, I guess the breadth of those, what do they cover and what don't they cover?
So there's a different types of agreements, right? You've got three of them primarily come into play when you have an employment contract. One of them is a non-competition agreement, where if you leave your employer, you can't compete for up to a period of 2 years in the parishes or municipalities that are listed in the non-compete agreement. And the same thing would be a non-solicitation agreement, where you can't solicit customers, and sometimes you can't even solicit co-employees of the company to come work at a new place. And then the third one and final one is a non-disclosure agreement, where if you have confidential information that the company relies on to move its business forward, trade secrets, algorithms, a lot of involved with computer related software issues and things like that. That if you have that knowledge, you have a duty not to disclose it to third parties, and that may even continue after you leave the company. So you don't lose your competitive advantage because one of your employees goes somewhere, steals all your technology, and then gives it to your competitor. The thing is, when you write specifically non-compete agreements and non-solicitation agreements, they're very limited. And so quite often I see, somebody that works for one of the big drug companies or one of these big national companies, they'll come see me and say, hey, look, I've got this non-compete. I'm really worried about it. And it's a 5-year non-compete. It's, it doesn't mention parishes or municipalities or give any type of geographical limitations that would be in compliance with the statute. And the law is basically that those types of documents and those types of contracts are strictly construed. They're not favored. They don't want to prevent people from being gainfully employed in their profession. So they're not favored. So if you're going to do it as an employer, it's got to be done in very, very specific terms and following this statute, which again calls for geographical limitations, which specifically lists the parishes where or the municipalities where the employee is unable to compete, and also specifically listing it's limiting it to 2 years. In the past, the courts have, there were these reformation provisions and savings provisions in the contract where it basically said if this contract is overly broad and it's beyond the scope of any statute or, of any state law, then the courts can have the authority to reform it to make it, in compliance with law to the highest degree. And the courts have, started doing that, but then recently have kind of shut the door on that. They basically said, look, these things aren't favored. And so why are you going to leave it up to the court to now rewrite your agreement? You need to write it correctly the first time. So, it's, if you're an employer and you want to have a non-competition agreement or a non-solicitation agreement with one of your employees, you should, you should definitely speak to a lawyer and make sure that it's in compliance with the Louisiana statute. Because if it's not, it'll get thrown out, and then the employee can go do it if they want to do it.
Also too, when you define the industry that you're prohibited from competing in, it could be a sub-industry. It might have to be defined as a sub-industry in the sense that, let's say if you're a forensic engineer, your non-disclosure agreement or your non-compete agreement should reflect that you're not able to compete in within a certain geographical region in forensic engineering. But if it is in civil engineering or something that is not in direct competition, you still that non-compete wouldn't extend to that, because they do have a policy that they want you people to work. It's just that if you have a profession that has a lot of sub-industries, and if you're in another sub-industry and you're not competing, that would not extend to that particular sub-industry, and it would probably be ruled as invalid. So basically what you need to do also is to make sure it's actually against competition and not against someone who's in the same industry, but they're not competing. So, so there's just a lot, but I think sometimes employers will send out non-competes knowing that they don't extend to that particular employee or maybe to the breadth of what the industry that that it encompasses, but sometimes it's about maybe giving an employee a second thought about not leaving and not going to another employer because they're sort of fuzzy as to whether this really would apply to my situation or not. So in those situations, you probably have to consult and get an opinion on that.
Exactly.
So
it's a statutory formula. It's pretty easy to follow, but a lot of these national companies just do this broad-based agreement and don't make it state specific. And so you have a better opportunity, believe it or not, to challenge it. But from the big national companies who you would think would be more likely to restrict those.
Right, and in the non-competes, the law varies from state to state. There's not a national standard for it. So, like you said, when you have a lot of these, maybe pharmaceutical companies or other companies that have national sales, they'll write a generic one, and that doesn't necessarily apply to Louisiana. And a lot of times, they don't apply to Louisiana, and they're probably they probably wouldn't stand up to scrutiny. But so.
And you'll interpret it where the employee is located.
Yes, and
so if it's an employee, you're going to use Louisiana law to interpret the non-compete statute.
And I think a couple of weeks ago you were talking about LLCs, formation of LLCs, getting your partners, as far as an operating agreement. And often when you do have a partner in an LLC agreement in some type of business, you do often get the partners to sign non-competition agreements also, or that's a lot.
Because you don't want them picking up, and especially if they're not a manager of the company. The managers have a fiduciary duty to the company, but if you're just a member, you don't have that same fiduciary duty. So unless it's placed into an operating agreement as to what your duties are and how they're defined and limited, and your ability to now, if you're selling widgets and you want to, you can't leave and go sell widgets somewhere else if you have a non-compete agreement. But if you don't, and you're just an owner member of a company, you don't have any fiduciary relationship to that company to not compete. And so you can take your sales and your ideas and your methods and go elsewhere. Unless you're a manager, again, the manager has a fiduciary duty to the other members and to the company. But if you're just a member, you're good to go.
Gotcha. Okay, and we're going to before we go to a break, we're going to change. Change subjects a little bit. We got a text that says, "Why do you think Sean Payton put his foot in his mouth by saying the rude stuff about the former Denver coach?" Now, I have a theory on this. Coach Payton doesn't do anything on mistake. He did that to send a message because I know his mentor is Bill Parcells. And Coach Parcells, when he wanted to address the team, he often used the media to address the particular issue. And I think what Coach Payton did was he basically stated, everything we did last year was crap. We're not going to do it again. We're going to do it right. We're not going to have any personal trainers into the building. We're not going to put up what we did last year. We're going to do everything opposite. And I think he sent the message, and then he knew what he was doing, but he also knew that there was a certain segment of whiny reporters who would take issue with that, and so he was so. But I thought that was as soon as he said it, I knew what he was doing, and I thought he was talking through the media, much like Nick Saban does also. So I thought that was interesting. Did you see? You saw what he had said, huh, Albert?
No, go back.
No. Basically, what he said about the prior staff is everything what they did was bad, wrong, and we're not going to do it this way. And he sort of personally criticized Paul Hackett, the prior coach, and just sort of took him to task. And basically, that people started an uproar in the media, and so he basically came back and said, "Well, I probably shouldn't have said that. I should probably have more of a filter." But I think he knew exactly what he was doing. So that was just my response to that text. I don't think anything that he doesn't do or does do is calculated. It is totally calculated and wiping the slate clean. The good part is I'm glad we're not playing him but once every 4 years. So,
right.
All right, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
WWL, home of the Home Improvement Show with Paul LaGrange. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
WWL is your home of the black and gold and all-pro coverage of training camp. Listen for expert analysis from the legends, the Cajun Cannon, Bobby Hebert, and Deuce McAllister. Post-practice comments from Coach Allen and key players. Plus, Detillier and Haas with eyewitness insights. And Geller and Nowak deliver the latest news, interviews, and videos. Brought to you in part by Rouse's Markets.
Colin,
Shop
can you hear me
Rouse's,
okay?
official supermarket of the Saints on WWL.
You're good. I can turn you up on my end. You're good on my end.
Okay.
When it was time for my parents to make a decision on Medicare, they found it very confusing, so they asked me to help. Frankly, I too found it difficult. There's much information out there, so many companies offering so many services, and while they all look good on paper, when I am making a decision of this importance, I prefer to sit down and speak face-to-face with an expert. People's Health has created just such a place. Now you can go speak face-to-face with an expert, someone that can walk you through all of the Medicare options available to you. Folks, I saw it for myself. I went and visited the brand new People's Health Medicare Center at 3017 Veterans Boulevard near the corner of Causeway and Vets, right next to Party City. Walk-ins are welcome, but you can also call to make an appointment at 855-208-4186. And if you missed Medicare's annual enrollment deadline, you might still have a chance to enroll in a 5-star plan. Your benefits could start in the first day next month. Call 1-855-821-2666 or visit peopleshealth.com.
Hi, I'm Ava Cates, Secretary of the Louisiana Workforce Commission, and I'm so excited to welcome you to the Tech Ready Louisiana program. Tech Ready Louisiana is a tool for everyone. We are pleased to partner with Coursera, an online learning platform to provide Louisianians access to over 6,000 free courses to help you navigate a tech-ready world. You can access Coursera by visiting our website or visit one of our local offices. Are you tech ready? Let's get started.
Sponsored by the Louisiana Workforce Commission.
At Oakwood Heart Jewelers, a great engagement ring can actually cost you less. Why? Because we buy direct. Ta-ta, middleman. Au revoir. There's a great work of art in every box from Oakwood Heart on Metairie Road.
Glow Resources. Complete employee solutions. GlowResources.com.
This is an important notice to consumers facing $10,000.
I'm kind of like just digging through Spotify to find some stuff that isn't yacht rock. What we're feeling? I think. What do you feel
go
about
Seals and
Supertramp?
Crofts,
Is now in effect
England
that will
Dan and John
significantly
Ford
reduce
Coley,
the amount you will owe if you
Ambrosia.
qualify. This is not bankruptcy or
Todd
a debt
Rundgren's
consolidation
good.
loan.
What about
Carol's
a Supertramp?
Companies like to keep
Supertramp's
secret exist to aid American consumers struggling with overwhelming credit card debt by offering tremendous savings and real debt relief. Accredited Debt Relief has established a special hotline for you to call and learn what savings you qualify for. They've helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt and are A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. So don't wait. Get the relief you need during these hard economic
England Dan and
times.
John Ford
For this
Coley.
free
Oh,
information,
I'm not a
call
big
the
Brett
Accredited
fan.
Debt Relief Hotline
So
now.
that's
Call
not very good.
800-663-1313.
America, Sister Golden
800-663-1313.
Hair.
That's 800.
All right, we'll do that next. After this song.
Yeah.
All things legal on WWL, AMFM.com, and the Odyssey app. Connect with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on the Oakwood Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870.
All right, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back. We're back live and direct from Houston, Texas. Albert, I want to talk a little bit. I'm getting a little cooperation from the staff here. So, want to talk probably the last part about Hurricane Ida claims. We're coming up on a deadline in 30 days, and we're starting.
So when are you going to stop taking claims? When are you going to?
Between the second and third week of August is my thought.
At the last minute, let something fall through the cracks, and then be responsible for it, right?
Yeah, I had cleared the decks, anticipating what's going to happen, what is happening, that was going to happen, in the sense that we're starting to get deluged with calls saying, hey, we've been working with an unresolved claim. I have a public adjuster. I work with, MMA. I'm not sure if they filed a lawsuit or not. So we're getting deluged with calls, which is fine, and we can handle it. But, there's a lot of different scenarios that you need to file your claim. For example, one of the scenarios that's not being talked about is some people have had appraisals under the policy. And the appraisal process is where the insured picks an appraiser, the insurance company picks an appraiser, and then it's either going to, if they can't agree, it goes to an umpire. Well, that process is still going on for a lot of people. And if you don't file a lawsuit after the appraisal process is completed, there's a question as to whether they could have to pay you or not if you don't, in absence of filing a lawsuit.
I don't think it's a question.
I think it's yeah.
Hey, you have no rights to go after them and force it. So I think you need to make sure that you actually have a lawsuit filed to protect yourself, and until it's paid in full. I wouldn't rely on the adjuster's word that, hey, yeah, we're going to pay you.
Yeah.
You need to file a lawsuit to protect that interest. I wouldn't take any chances.
Now, also too, a lot of people who have talked to said, well, I have a public adjuster handling my claim right now, and so therefore I don't need to file a lawsuit. He's going to handle it, and he said he would, or they're under the belief that the public adjuster can take it past August 29th in absence of filing a lawsuit. And again, that is not correct. if you have a third party, a building consultant, public adjuster, working on your claim. And I would even be cautious, even if you do make an agreement prior to the deadline. You still have some, and you hadn't been paid before the deadline. You have some exposure that you leaving it to chance and risk that they may not pay you.
I agree with you completely. I think it's important to just protect your interest, and it's a few $100 to file the lawsuit and make sure that you're covered, because it's too much of a risk, And again, I've got people calling me saying, "Yeah, I haven't gotten any estimates," and it's just going to be really hard at this point, 2 years after the fact, to give an estimate when so much has passed by and so much time and so much has happened in between. The insurance companies say, "Well, wait a minute. Why is this estimate still good? The house has been sitting there for 2 years. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You didn't mitigate this." So it's going to be a harder claim. But if you've got your claim evaluated and you've got your claim, even if it's a public adjuster or some, a roofer or some contractor or whatever, and they're not paying you, then we can take that claim and move it forward for you. At this point, you kind of don't have any other choice if the adjuster and the insurance company's not stepped up to the plate and paid you enough, then you really need to take it to the next step. And again, the drop dead deadline to actually file a lawsuit is August 29th. And so, you want to come in at least a few weeks before that, to tomorrow, right? Or call up or send us your stuff via, email, and you can scan it and email it to us, and we can get it evaluated and maybe make a phone call and see if we can try to get it moved, get some movement on it. And then if not, file the lawsuit, preserve the claim, and then we'll have time to work it and get, maximize your recovery. But I've gotten call after call. "Yeah, man, I got 3 different houses. I'm trying to get the stuff together." And I'm like, "Look, spend the weekend and just do it, because, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, and you're going to just be very disappointed and upset with yourself if you don't, you don't come across and get it done."
Now, let me give you another scenario that a lot of people have right now is that homeowner number 1 was in Laplace. They had $225,000 of replacement cost, but they were paid $150,000 of actual cash value.
Right.
And so then they're just starting the repairs because the money just came in, or they're having a hard time contracting a contractor. So they were paid $150,000. You have a replacement cost value of $225,000. And if you want to get your replacement costs preserved, you have to file a lawsuit. In absence of filing a lawsuit, a lot of people think, well, I can call back and, I can get with the insurance company next, in the fall when we finish, and they'll pay me my recoverable depreciation. And again, that's not the situation. At that point, they have no obligation to pay it. And chances are, they say, well, they told us I would. All they told us, we would just send the receipts and they're going to pay it. They'll pay it back. But again, this August 29th deadline is a deadline. If you don't file a lawsuit, you will lose your right to get any recoverable depreciation that you would be entitled to.
Absolutely. And again, just for people that aren't aware, recoverable depreciation, if you have a replacement cost policy where they will pay the replacement cost to replace the damages, they'll pay you a portion of those damages, and they're going to depreciate the components of the home and pay you the depreciated value. When you get the work completed, they then will pay you what's called the recoverable depreciation, where we'll cover that back. They want you to complete the work and preserve the risk, because that's what they're covering in the future. They're continuing to cover it. So they want you to put, repaint whatever you got to repaint, or replace the drywall, or replace your roof. And once you do that, then they'll say, okay, well, then we'll go ahead and pay you back for your, recoverable depreciation. And so if you don't collect that before the deadline, you're out of luck. Same thing on your contents. And we got a lot of people with contents coverage that, still dealing with trying to get their contents paid. from the water, some flooding, and whatever else that might have occurred. And so, that's something that if you need it, any and all aspects of your claim, they need to be addressed before August 29th, and a lawsuit has to be filed by that date.
And we're going to probably spend the rest of the show covering these different scenarios, because inevitably we're going to receive phone calls after August 29th saying, hey, I had an appraisal. And when we got the appraisal award back, the insurance company unilaterally reduced the appraisal amount on the basis that some of the damages assessed in appraisal are beyond coverage. Or we're going to have someone who will call and say, hey, I have recoverable depreciation. I sent my receipts to the insurance company, and they said they're not going to reimburse me because it's after the deadline. And again, especially the homeowners who are in Laplace, in the river parishes, Terrebonne Parish, Lafourche Parish, a lot of those houses, you may have had a situation where you might have another 10, 20, 50, or $100,000 of recoverable depreciation on the table that you could recover, but you just hadn't got to that point because if you had trouble getting a contractor, you've received your money late, you just had subcontractors, hard time finding them. That if you don't, and so you hadn't had the chance to get your replacement cost yet. So we're just trying to really emphasize that if you're in that situation and you're under the, impression that, if you finish the renovation next year or you finish it, in the fall, that you're just going to be able to write the insurance company and get your recoverable depreciation back, you're not. Also, Albert, you brought up a good point with the contents, because contents are heavily depreciated often. And if you're, and especially if you're in between, Gonzales and maybe Laplace or Luling, where the hurricane had a direct hit and people lost all their contents, you might be in a situation where, okay, I'm just replacing a little contents at a time, and I've got a $200,000 contents claim. They paid me actual cash value of $80,000, but I'm going to replace everything eventually, and I just hadn't got to it yet. And so again, under that scenario, if you have had $200,000 replacement cost, but you were only paid $80,000 of contents in the replacement cost value, you still, in that scenario, you'd have $120,000 on the table that you would be entitled to upon replacing your contents. And that if you don't file on August 29th, you lose that right to recover that recoverable depreciation that was taken off when they paid off your actual cash value. So I know we're sort of hitting this pretty hard, and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on as far as once you file a lawsuit, what occurs, especially in Jefferson Parish and some of the parishes that have case management orders. But we're just trying to emphasize very, very strongly that there's a lot of bad information out there as to what's the significance of the August 29th date is. And we just want to make it very, very clear that on August 29th, when this expires, there's going to be a lot of homeowners that are going to leave a lot of money on the table and aren't going to be able to recoup that because they didn't file a lawsuit.
Right.
And so, and again, if you're in a situation where you need to get your lawsuit preserved, all you need is pretty much the claim summaries, the declaration page, the photographs, and that's it's generally enough information to file, to get the lawsuit in, to stop the clock from running and paying. And look, I think we got, maybe some people in the insurance industry will disagree with us, or they may not say it outright, but I think the insurance companies are basically waiting to see what happens on August 29th, see what lawsuits are filed. And once at that point, they'll know what their liabilities are, and then they'll start dealing with it. But I've had a lot of insurance call and saying, hey, my insurance company's going dark on me in the last 2 months. And they're not really being responsive. And that's what we tell them. That's why. It's because they want to see, I think their corporate strategy in connection with their fiduciary duty to their shareholders is how they would explain it, is we're going to see how many claims survive August 29th. And if they don't, we write those off the books, and we know that we can take them off our reserves. And we know definitely that those claims are closed without any possibility of being reopened or any type of supplements. So, again, I know we're belaboring the point, but I know that there's probably some of the listeners who are saying that does apply to me, and we need to go into this eyes wide open that if we don't do anything, you're going to lose your claim. All right. Let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. There you go.
And I just can't live without you. Can't you see it in my eyes? I've been one for the correspondent. I've been too hard to find.
WWL, home of all things legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
If you compete in sports, you know there's no greater thrill than winning. And when you compete at the NFL level, that excitement is multiplied. You never forget the camaraderie of a team, the adoration of the fans, and you do anything to hold on to that connection. It's the Cajun Cannon Bobby Hebert. That's why I joined WWL. It's the closest I can get to Saints football without playing. Covering this team is personal.
Doug, you there?
I think you hear that on Sports.
So we got one text that said all grizzly bears are brown bears, but not all brown bears are grizzlies, kind of like cognac and brandy, huh? Sean Payton just speaking the truth. Most people can't handle.
Not be required to pay it all back because there are special programs.
And then again, the same person who asked about Jimmy Graham making a difference was also the same person who asked about Sean Payton putting his foot in his mouth, who was also wondering, in signing Jimmy Graham, will that possibly take away playing time from Taysom Hill? I seriously doubt it, right?
Tremendous savings and real debt relief. Accredited Debt Relief has established a special hotline for you to call and learn what savings you qualify for. They've helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt and are A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. So don't wait. Get the relief you need during these hard economic times. For this free information, call the Accredited Debt Relief Hotline now. Call 800-663-1313.
Yeah, I just got my emails up.
800-663-1313.
When they lock you out, they lock you out for about half an hour.
That's poetic.
Bonjour, mes amis.
Good thing our show's got 2 hours.
For the perfect gift? There's no better way to say I love you than with a pair of diamond stud earrings from Oakland Heart Jewelers. Let me read you this online review from Kristen. I purchased an absolutely beautiful pair of diamond stud earrings today at Oakland Heart. They treated me like
I guess it's, we could end this program with a little bit of Saints talk, considering if Albert's out next week, we won't have a show the following week, which means the next time that you and Albert would be back on a show, the Saints would have played a season.
Right.
Don't think for a minute that all diamonds are alike. Ours really sparkle, and you don't need a loop to see the difference. Plus, we buy direct. So we bring you the best for less. And no matter how much you want to spend, we have a huge selection of diamond studs to choose from. In every price range, second to none. C'est magnifique, oui. There's a great work of art in every box from Oakland Heart on Metairie Road.
The new Mercedes.
What's your thoughts on Simply Red?
Directly across from the Caesar Superdome on Poitras Street, features a state-of-the-art service department that's equipped to service all Mercedes-Benz vehicles, no matter where you purchased your vehicle. Same-day service appointments available right now. And
I love holding back the years.
Will get you where you need to go. The Mercedes-Benz Downtown Service Center, an exciting addition to downtown New Orleans, and a proud new member of the Gail Benson Automotive family of dealerships.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even
All right, we got about a minute till we're back.
All right.
Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-548-6839. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-548-6839. 800-548-6839. 800-548-6839.
Hey everyone, it's Tan Trung, and I got a question for you. What do you think of the driving you see in New Orleans? How would you describe it? To me, I'd call it reckless.
So, are we actually, is next week going to be Michelle?
Your suggestion.
Sure.
Cool. Love to have her back on.
I take a ride with someone who's...
Maybe we can see what she wants to play music-wise.
It's a crash course on driving.
She likes yacht rock.
Our conversation
she likes
touches on
country
comical
music,
and
actually.
serious
We
aspects.
wanted-
Old country music
No,
or
no,
like
new.
today's country music?
Download
Like-
or listen to the Tan Report wherever
New,
you get
like
your
rock
podcasts.
today. She loves today's country music, contemporary country music.
Find something to land on. We'll be good.
Now, more All Things Legal, underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. All advice given and opinion shared are solely those of attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri. Back to WWL.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. On till 10 o'clock. We'll be on next week. Following week, we'll be off. Saints play Kansas City Chiefs at noon, so we'll be preempted, and we'll be back on the 20th. And Albert, want to talk to you a little bit more about Hurricane Ida. If you file a lawsuit, like, for example, on the 24th in Jefferson Parish, what's going to happen next, and how is the claim going to be processed in accordance with the case management orders that have been
Well, yeah,
submitted
so
by the court?
they'll set you up for a mediation conference and see if the parties can. Without some sort of penalty, without some sort of, attorney's fees or anything else. So and look, I don't think they want to go there. I think so many people have been shorted. If you're looking at a jury that's going to, be the trier of fact in the case, then I think the insurance companies, the cases that came out of Lafayette and Lake Charles area for the Hurricane Laura, insurance companies got spanked pretty hard by the juries. And so, a lot of people knew people that had bad damages and were screwed. A lot of people got screwed themselves. A lot of people, just have a bad taste in their mouth about the whole insurance industry anyway. So, hey, look, you pulled out, so we're going to go ahead and, smack it to you. And so I don't think the insurance companies really want to go try a whole lot of cases. I think they want to, pay the least that they have to pay, but they're going to have to come up and pay something because, if it's a question of, hey, this roofer says you need a new roof and their adjuster says you don't, I feel pretty confident that, depending on the facts of the case, I think the courts are going to be very generous in terms of getting the insurance company, getting the insured, and getting their lives put back together so they can put a new roof on the property and protect the property for the next storm.
Now, can you explain? We got about 3 or 4 minutes before we go to our last break. What's going to happen in the mediation that's appointed by the court? They're going to have a mediator. What generally happens to the mediation, and what could the homeowner expect?
Well, people often confuse mediation with arbitration. In fact, I've even seen some contracts where it says we're going to go to binding mediation or arbitration. Well, there's kind of no such thing as a binding mediation. A mediation is where a mediator will sit down and his or her role is to make sure that the parties settle the case. They don't care how it comes out. They want to get it settled. So what'll happen is, you typically will sit in a room together. They'll explain the process, and then the insurance company and their folks will go into another room, and you'll go in one room, and then sit down and listen to your case, listen to what your demands are, and then go to the other side and offer that demand. Say, hey, look, this is what they want. Here's why they want it. And so the insurance company is going to come back and say, well, look, here's the problem with that. We don't want to pay this. There's no coverage for that, this, and this. And so now they bring that back to you. And so the mediator is going to come into your office with, your attorney, et cetera, and say, look, they don't want to pay this. They don't have coverage for this. They don't think they owe this. And look, here's where your case is bad. This is why you need to come down in your demand. They go back to the insurance company and look, this is why your case is bad. This is why you need to come up. And so the mediator is there to force the parties to some middle ground that maybe they're both a little disappointed in, but it gets the case settled. And that's what the mediator's job is. An arbitrator and an arbitration is quite different. That is actually a kind of a mini trial where you put your witnesses on, the arbitrator hears the evidence and makes a decision. And, but for very, very few and unlikely circumstances, an arbitrator's decision is final. You really have difficulty appealing it to a district court. And there are very limited circumstances in which you can. And so when you go before an arbitrator to make that final decision, and if they're wrong, they're wrong, and you're stuck. So, so that's the difference between an arbitration and a mediation. A mediation, they want to try to work both sides and get it settled. If it doesn't settle, the parties go on their way and continue to litigate. But if under an arbitration provision, it's final, and you go to the arbitrator, they make a decision, and you file something with the court to make that decision executory, meaning that you can execute on the contract. I'm sorry, on the arbitration award.
Yeah, and so for purpose of Hurricane Ida claims, it's going to be a mediation, as you spoke. So basically, what's going to happen is if you file a lawsuit. If lawsuit's filed, it'll be assigned to what they call a special master who is appointed by the courts to sort of oversee all these Hurricane Ida cases. And then there's going to be an exchange of information between the attorney for the homeowners and the attorney for the insurance companies. And then shortly thereafter, they'll have a mediation. And the mediations, I think we've been north of 100, 150 mediations so far. We're batting about 98%. And when you go through the process, we settle about 98% of it. And I'm sure the general settlement's probably in the 80s or 90s among all claims once they go through this process. So, a lot of people say, what's our expectations? And expectation is the judges do not want to be dealing with these cases for the next 5 or 10 years. They want to get them moved, and they appointed these special masters to get them resolved. And that's pretty much the orders of the judges say to the special masters is get these cases resolved in a fair way, and get the homeowners their monies, and let's close these files. So basically, if you file suit, you'll probably be within have a mediation within 4 or 5 months in most cases. So so again,
and if you get to federal court, it might be a little quicker than that actually if they remove you to federal court.
So
let's get them in, get them filed. We need an idea of how much it's going to be. So if it's under $75,000, we can put that in the petition and keep it from being removed to federal court, and it'll stay in state court. we can, hopefully get to a resolution pretty quickly.
Okay, well, let's go to our final break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out.
Just a waste of time.
There you go.
Baby, come back. Any kind of fool could see there was something in everything about you. Baby, come back. You can blame it all on me.
WWL, the big 870 AM and 105.3 FM. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Breaking news about the Saints and LSU on WWL is powered by BetQL. Smarter bets start with BetQL. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today.
WWL is proudly sponsored by Dudley DeBosier, official injury lawyers of the New Orleans Saints. Call 504-444-4444. Non-attorney spokesman Chad Dudley, New Orleans.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code SPORTS at checkout. That's harrys.com, code SPORTS. Enjoy.
It's hurricane season, and the Blood Center needs your help to prepare. And Craig's Electrical and Generator
All right, what do you want to end with?
wants to help you prepare
how long
with
we
a
gonna
new
have?
portable generator. The Blood Center and Craig's
We'll have 3 or 4 minutes. It's not going to be.
Okay, we got a few minutes.
donate blood and
Well, we won't come back with a rejoin, but whatever you want.
generators
Yeah, okay,
from Craig's Electrical and Generator Service. There's still time to like Lawrence in Metairie and Pete in West Wego. Visit thebloodcenter.org to find out how. Or call 800-86-BLOOD.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 475-2323.
LA 121-12674. Offices in Baton Rouge.
Call 475-2323.
You've heard about it? We've got it. Semaglutide. RejuveMeMedical.com.
Hun, we need to stop putting off getting life insurance.
I know. It's just been so busy, and I'm sure the cost is out of our budget.
Well, gentle.
We when we did the show last week, we did a bunch of soul music. What are your thoughts on Donny
All
Hathaway?
online with no complicated forms
Oh, I like
and
Donny
no
Hathaway.
medical exam. All they
I
had
like
to
it.
do was answer a few health questions.
Absolutely.
Do you want to end with that, or do you
Yeah,
want
we'll
to
end
end with
with
something
that.
else?
Yeah,
And
we'll
all
end with that.
online?
I know,
Yeah,
right?
next week will be
It's not easy
country,
to think
like
about, but if
modern
something
country.
happened to
I
you,
don't listen to a lot
James and
of
I
it,
would be.
Okay, we can try to blend in some like 60s
like
country
the
with modern
whiskey.
country.
What's that whiskey
Wow,
song?
you were right.
We're back in 24.
And Ethos makes the whole online process fast and easy. And look at these rates and coverage options. It's great protection and totally fits our budget.
Ethos. They've removed all the barriers from getting coverage. Go to checkethos.com to get your free online quote. That's checkethos.com. Quote based on a healthy, non-smoking 30-year-old male with a 20-year term policy. Rates may vary.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. You got that from the vault, huh, Colin?
Yep.
Is that's what you would call is a deep cut, huh?
Oh no, I mean it's 1970. Yeah.
1970. There you go. All right. We've got about 2 minutes. Albert, before we sign off, you got any parting thoughts?
No. I was hopping up and down making my limoncello. I make my own homemade limoncello, and I've macerated my lemon peels for the last 3 or 4 weeks and in the vodka. And now I know some people use Everclear, but I think that's too strong. It tastes a little more bitter. But the vodka, good smooth vodka with the lemons and the simple syrup, and it's delicious.
Does that
Got
that
big old.
Does that go down easy on Sunday morning? Is that like a?
Could. It absolutely could. I don't know that I should be drinking while I'm on the radio, but I don't.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about maybe do it before Mass.
Oh yeah, nice little chill. Chilled limoncello. Take the edge off.
Take the edge off. Have a little more frank conversation with God. When you're there.
A little spiritual, right? But no, I've actually headed over to 11 o'clock Mass over at St. Catherine. So I may have a little sip before it, but I'm all done. It's all bottled up and ready to roll.
It's all bottled up. All right. Well, I've seen your I've seen your stock, and you're ready for prohibition in case it happens.
Oh, no question about it. Yeah, no. I might not have any. I might not have any food when the bomb blows, but we'll have a lot to drink.
Right. So, and also, always prepared for a good hurricane party too. So, there you go. All right. So,
how about 30 seconds?
Yeah. So
next week, off next week. So Doug's going to have a guest. I guess Michelle will stop in and
I'll elbow in bed. I'll elbow in bed until I get up. So there you go.
There you go.
All right. We'll see you next week on All Things Legal. Y'all have a wonderful week and stay cool and be blessed. See you next week.
Great show as always, guys.
All right. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it.